Hello and welcome. My name is Jodi Scholes, and I'm your instructor for the MBLEx review course. This is an exciting time. There's a big subject matter, large, huge subject matter in the MBLEx, and that is the business practices. You'll see there's two sections if you look at the Federation's content. Let me give you a little overview of what we're going to be doing today. My name is Jodi Scholes. I am your instructor. I've been a licensed massage therapist for 26 years. I've been teaching this content, since 2017 or so. And it is my privilege and pleasure to be with you today. And we're going to do class in 3 parts today. I started to say there's this big thing, this big section of content, and that's the business content. So guidelines to a professional practice, ethics, are both respectively 15% and 16%. So a total of 31% of your test. 3 out of every 10 questions, 31% of your test. That means there's going to be 31 questions in these 2 categories: guidelines to a professional practice and ethics. And so we are talking about guidelines today. I'm going to go over some great words. Part 1 of our class is we're just going to get centered and get present. We're going to address our mindset. And then part 2, we'll go into the learning. And in part 3, we're going to dissect some questions. Yeah, all right. But in part 1, I like to take just a couple minutes with you to get fully present. And if you're driving, leave your eyes open. If you're at work and operating heavy machinery, leave your eyes open. But I will invite you to just hear the sound of my voice, feel your feet underneath you. And let's just take a minute to get our head in the game, to get our head, our mindset, our attention right here in the present. There's a reason that we call this time the present, right? The gift is right now. So let's go ahead and just feel our feet underneath us. And take a breath. Wiggle your toes, flex and point your feet. Just feel the soles of your feet underneath you. Wiggle those toes. And tune into the breath. Tune into that cool air going in and that warm air coming out. Cool air in and warm air out. Let's do that one more time. Cool air coming in and warm air going out. And I invite you to bring your awareness back to your feet and move that awareness up the front of the legs to the knees. Tune into your hips, feeling the seat underneath you, feeling supported by that seat underneath you. And put your hand on your belly. You can thank that belly for just working. Whether it works well or works however it works, it works. Take your other hand and just put that on your chest, your heart space, the heart chakra. And feel that breath causing your chest and belly maybe to rise and fall. And we go up the neck and our awareness to our head. And we invite the mind to be quiet, the mind to settle. We invite the mind to focus. And we take everything that has happened whether it be this morning, yesterday, anything that's in the past. And we put it in a box. We put the lid on the box and we walk it out of the room. All of that activity. We can come back to it. We can come back to it a little later. And we go again inside for just a moment or two of silence. We thank the mind for the absorption of information. We know that as human beings, we only use just a small percentage of our minds, and we're just so grateful to the thing we call our brain, the thing we call our mind, for operating, for absorbing, for learning, for creating an attitude of positivity. And we agree that we can at least fake it until we make it if we're not feeling all that positive. I invite the edges of your mouth to curl up just ever so slightly. Just a little smile as we take another breath. We can release our hands back to our lap or to our sides. Roll those shoulders back. Roll those shoulders back. Drop those shoulder blades down. And when you're ready to do so, if your eyes have closed, you can flutter them open. And we are here. We are present. And through this simple exercise that took us all of about 3 or 4 minutes, we now bring our attention to right here, right now. And I invite you to consider using an exercise like this the day that you're taking your test. Before you even enter the testing facility, that you have a ritual, have an exercise that you have planned for when you arrive. I don't know about you, but sometimes, my heart beats a little faster and it's like, ooh, all right, here we go. And we can just get present, be right here in the present moment. Because this is where our blessings happen. This is where our joy is. This is where our joy is, right here and right now, not some fine day when I'm a licensed massage therapist, when I pass the test. Yeah, that's going to be a joyful day. And we've had quite a few joyful moments this week with people passing the MBLEx. So happy for you guys. Oh, yeah, just look on the patron page and scroll through the feed and you'll see. I mean, it's just delightful. In fact, I have another one to put up later this afternoon. I'm probably going to post that tomorrow, though, since we post our videos. So, and hello to everyone. Thank you for your notes in the chat. I appreciate that. And I invite you to consider using an exercise like this on the day that you take your test, and also just on days where you feel a little untethered. I mean, we use a term called grounded. Maybe that's a term you learned in massage school, how to get grounded. Grounded means that you're feeling connected to this place, this time. You're present, you're here, focused. You are here and prepared to be no place else. Yeah, yeah. It's a lovely exercise to quiet what I call and what others have called the monkey mind, right? the constant, like, hey, I gotta fix that problem, gotta remember to do that. Oh, I've gotta go pick up this, I gotta, get a gift for that. We put that in the box, we put the lid on it, and we put it aside for now. Because today we get to learn about guidelines to a professional practice. So let's go do that. All righty, here we go. Ooh, boy. There we go. And I want to say a big thank you to my friends. Let's see, slideshow. There we go. So welcome back to the MBLEx review course. Again, my name is Jodi Scholes. It's so much fun to facilitate this space for you, for us. And really my mission, my vision is to have amazing massage therapists in this world. And so I am doing my part by giving you the tools that you will need, the information you need, the mindset, the skill set of how to take a test, so that you, who are so dedicated, who are so diligent, who are so committed to becoming a massage therapist, if I can help that, that gives me such great pleasure. And that's why we're doing these classes, right? Because again, my mission, my vision is that you get to go out into the world and practice and give your gift to the world. Yeah. Because you're giving your gift to the world, you're making the world a better place. I talk sometimes about the ripple effect, but I haven't mentioned it lately. But let me share with you your ripple effect. When you're practicing massage therapy, it's almost like throwing a stone into a quiet pond. When you throw that stone, it makes a ripple, right? And it just carries on and on and on. Goes out, out, out. When you give someone a massage, that person is actually a nicer human being. That person's life improves. And so there's a ripple effect in that person's life. Maybe that person is nicer to their spouse or their partner. Maybe that person has more patience with their kids. Maybe that person is standing in line at the grocery store and just in chill mode versus like, right? So by you offering your gift of massage therapy to a person, you create a ripple effect. And I really believe that the zip code that you live in, the town that you live in, is a better place to live because you're practicing massage therapy. For real. Yeah, not everyone's called to this work, And you're doing it. All right. And soon you're going to be doing it after passing the MBLEx as a licensed massage therapist. And many of you listening are licensed massage therapists, or have passed your test. And I'm so happy for you. And so you're living it. You're living the dream right now. And yet there's always learning going on, right? Even as I prepared our lesson for today, there was more learning for me. All right, well, let's get to the learning, shall we? All right. So here's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about boundaries. We're going to be talking about things like boundary crossings, boundary violations. We're going to be talking about key terms. And we're going to be talking about the therapeutic relationship as well. I expanded on this table of contents. All right, but let's take a peek at this. This is such an imaginative way to demonstrate boundaries and clarifications. So what are the different kinds of boundaries? Now, this is kind of a word cloud that's all expanded, but what are the different kinds of boundaries? What are boundaries? How do we create them? How do we manage them? How do we change them if we need to change them? All of these words have to do with one of these three bubbles, and here's a little clue. So the different types of boundaries, there's a clearer slide in just a moment, but I want you to just take a peek at this, study this for a moment, what are the different types of boundaries? Well, there's physical boundaries, there's emotional boundaries, there's intellectual boundaries, there's permeable, semi-permeable boundaries. And then how do we create and change, or how, what are how do we define our boundaries? Let's go to a little bit of a clearer slide with the words that apply to each bubble next to them. And so boundaries, the words that come up are things like, okay, I'm at my limit. I'm actually, all right, I'm at the edge. This is the line that separates what's okay for me and what's not okay for me. Boundaries, if we were talking about a country, it's their border, right? It's like on this side of the boundary, I'm in the US, and on that side of the boundary, I'm in Canada. So that is a way to think about our boundaries, even in the treatment room. I am here. This is where I live. This is what's okay. But how do we create or manage boundaries? Well, look to the right side of the slide. Time. Time is a boundary? Yeah. Have you ever gotten a massage where you scheduled an hour and they went like 90 minutes? Because the therapist thought, oh, I'm going to go over with you. Well, what happens if I have another appointment right after? So time is actually an example of a boundary. It's an example of, hey, in fact, I stopped going to a massage therapist because when I booked 90 minutes, I would end up with her for 2 hours. Oh, I just want to do a little more. Oh, I just want to do a little more. And never mind the chit chat before and after. It's like taking me 2.5 hours. That was actually a boundary crossing. And for me, technically a boundary violation because I didn't go back. So timing your sessions. We think of it sometimes as time like, oh, well, they booked an hour, but I only gave them 45 minutes. That could be another example of, hey, wait a minute. I thought we were going to do 60 minutes. And that's really good to clarify ahead of time because there are many, many franchises. In fact, most of the franchises do a 50-minute session. That the table time says you're booking an hour, 1 hour massage, right? So crazy, but it's only 50 minutes of table time. So clarify for yourself, table time. In fact, I clarify with my clients that they're going to need to leave about an extra 15 to 20 minutes with me because the table time is 60 minutes. And that speaks to something that I think is also important. We're going to be doing something in a week, and in 2023, we're going to have a regular class on how to launch your business. Now that you are a licensed massage therapist, or as soon as you pass that MBLEx, you're going to have questions, and you may already have questions on how much should I charge? What are my, how do I take credit cards? What are my policies and procedures? Do I have a 24-hour cancellation policy? We're going to talk about launching in your first year and all of those different things that you can find out the hard way, or you can plan ahead. For some of you, you've been entrepreneurs, and so you have an idea. But that's kind of a deep dive on time and how do we create boundaries, healthy boundaries with time, with our clients. Money, yeah, obviously, you get paid for what you do. And even now, when you're practicing, you can accept gratuities. And you can recommend a gratuity. I'm not charging the full amount right now because I'm practicing. I'm getting ready to take, I'm learning, I'm studying, getting ready to take my national exam. So the recommended donation is $50, $20, $60. Make it a little less than what you would be charging as a licensed professional. So boundaries are also a recognition of power differences. You can see over here, power differences. And that, we'll talk about that specifically. We'll define that, but remember, we'll define it specifically in another slide. But remember, as the massage therapist, you have a significant power difference than your client. I don't care if your client's the president of a company of the United States, or I don't care if your client is a king. And once they're on that massage table, there are power differences, and the massage therapist has it. And we'll talk about our responsibilities with that power difference in our guidelines class today. So how else do we manage our, there's how do you manage your space? Is it cluttered? You'll see, where do you practice? What location do you practice? Clothing creates boundaries. If we're going to be doing certain techniques like stretching, we may ask our clients to wear an athletic short, a spandex short. We look at the dual relationships that exist. We've talked in the past about dual relationships, but how do you know that person outside the treatment room? Do you know them outside the treatment room? That's a dual relationship. And we have to manage those boundaries, right? That might be my mom on any given Sunday. That's my mom all day, every day. But when mom lays down on the massage table, that's my client. And so understanding and the language, right, also that we use. When my client, even if it's my mom, is on the table, how am I speaking with my client? Is it professional? So just wanted to give you an idea of the different types of boundaries and clarifying how we manage those boundaries. And when this comes up on the MBLEx, they can kind of throw you a curveball. And it's like, oh, an intellectual boundary. Oh, a sexual boundary. Well, we know there's sexual boundaries, right? But let's dive in just a little bit more to the types of boundaries, typical types. So this is physical, emotional, intellectual. What is that? I think sexual boundary is pretty clear. And then the energetic boundaries. I want to clarify those two, because if those come up on the MBLEx, that can seem like a trick question, but it's not. An intellectual boundary actually refers to thoughts and ideas. And healthy intellectual boundaries makes space for your thoughts and ideas, not just my thoughts and ideas. Yeah. And so we see a lot of arguing. Yeah, we see a lot of arguing. Like even on TV, we see a lot of arguing. And looking at in my in the content here, healthy intellectual boundaries include respect for others' ideas. When you walk in that treatment room, now I know some of you are very passionate. I know you are. Yeah, and you feel really strongly about certain things. We leave our strong opinions at the door. Oh, honey, I've had it by my tongue more than once. Oh, trust me. Yeah. I've been told at different times during all different types of presidencies that this was going to be the best president ever. Like all the way back to Ronald Reagan. I've had clients tell me that the president who sat in office was going to be known as the best president ever. Is that always true? No, it's not always true. But which do you think is better to talk about? The weather or politics? Pets or religion? Yeah. So if you have strong feelings, recognize, be self-aware enough to recognize those strong opinions and to leave them at the door. My clients don't know if I'm Republican or Democrat. They don't know if I have a spiritual life. Well, they probably do know I have a spiritual life. But they don't know, like my self-disclosure is a minimum because I want to make space for them. I want to make space for their point of view. So to dismiss or belittle another person's thoughts or ideas is not fair. Hold on just a moment. Thanks. I have guests, so and when you have guests, sometimes you have to coach them and just tell them, "Hey, shh." I know you're doing it too in your house, right? When you have kids, when you have spouses. All right, so intellectual boundaries mean that you make space, whether you agree or not, for another person's ideas and thoughts. And look, if they bring them up on the massage table, that is not the place to coach them. That's not the place to think you're going to change their opinion. No, we have a responsibility to have safe space. And so I think I've said enough about intellectual boundaries. Let's take a quick peek at energetic boundaries. Because again, that might seem like a trick question, but there are energetic boundaries. And when we talk about that, it's like walking into a room and feeling weird. You're picking up on the energy of the room. And some massage schools talk more about energy than others. But in this case, it, the example that I've used is when we say like someone's staring daggers at us, where they're like staring at us, like, bleh. Well, their intention is to send a message through their eyes, right? They're not saying anything, but maybe we feel it. So when we pick up on that energy, and from a client, there are different signs of that. And so picking up and having clear energetic boundaries. And look at these personal boundaries examples. So we've got these three words have come up on the MBLEx, by the way. And these represent personal boundaries. And that can be physical or it could be energetic in these cases. So permeable, semi-permeable, and the one on the bottom, I can't see. Impermeable, I think. That's funny. In any case, so these different types, so permeable means there's just no boundaries, right? That everything gets through, we're not, and this speaks to feeling sympathetic or empathetic, but that just everything's coming through, that there's not your personal space, that's your experience of that event. Semi-permeable, that means, some of that gets through. And impermeable, that's what that is, I can't really see it. That's nothing getting through. And so empathy versus sympathy is important, an important clarification, because empathy, you can recognize the emotion, but you don't feel the emotion. Let me give you an example. Say a client comes in and they've just had to put their pet down. Their dog died. Eesh, terrible experience, right? When you have to put down a pet. Oh, it's horrible. Have you ever had to put down a pet? Oh, it's just the worst, right? Empathy recognizes that situation and says, wow, that's a tough spot. They're going to be feeling a certain way. Sympathy is when we jump in the sad pit with them. Oh my God, I remember when I had to put my dog down. It was horrible. Oh, I cried for weeks. Oh, I had a piece of jewelry made. Oh, this isn't about you. This isn't about your dog. Personal boundaries mean that you're making space for them for how they show up that day, but it's not about you. We're keeping ourselves within our self-disclosure to a minimum. Semi-permeable is the healthiest of boundaries, because we want to be very intentional about what goes out and what comes in. All right, moving along. So interactive boundaries means that you agree to meet at where those boundaries are. And look, we can be talking about physical boundaries too on the massage table, right? So what is going to be comfortable for a client physically? I mean, I've worked on a client, a Muslim client, and she had leggings and long sleeves on for her session. That was her boundary. And we figured out a way to work with that. Actually ended up being a lovely session. But it was really different for me to meet someone at that boundary. Boundary crossing or violation, we're going to talk about a little bit more about. and what is healthy distancing from the boundaries. Yeah, I was able to give that client a massage. She was on the massage table. She was draped, even though she was wearing leggings and long sleeves. Just again, giving her space, permission, like to just be like, okay, yeah, this is normal. So let's look at the difference between a boundary crossing and a violation. A crossing may be accidental. So if you cross someone's boundaries, it just is to the degree of that crossing that makes it a crossing or a violation. Um, and again, it's subjective, right? So one thing, if I shake someone's hand, that's typically normal, except it became really abnormal during COVID. And so now we're kind of like doing this whole pantomime thing. Are you shaking hands? Are you touching arms? Are you fist bumping? Are you nodding? I mean, I've been at meetings where we have a red, yellow, or green. And red means don't touch me. Green means you can give me a hug. That is an example of honoring people's boundaries. So examples of boundary crossings: inappropriate touch, words can be a boundary violation, obviously sexual misconduct, inappropriate self-disclosure. I don't want to know sometimes what's happening with most of the time, what's happening in my massage therapist's personal relationships. Inappropriate. And it's not talking about their sex life, because we think of inappropriate, right? But let's not bring our personal stuff into the treatment room, right? Just, keeping our self-disclosure to a minimum. Energetic complications. That's probably not going to be on the MBLEx, but you can imagine just where do people, that's personal space. That's another way to say energetic space. What is their energetic, what is that energetic, what energy are they putting out? Have you ever worked with a client or been in class with a client or been in class with a student or a colleague, and they're just in a bad mood? Yeah, and it's like, ew, I don't really want to work on that. That's energetically complicated. That first time, well, I guess we're going to, do this, but we need to be protecting our own energy at that point. All right. So, and where do these boundaries come from? I just wanted to mention that. Sometimes it's family stuff. Sometimes it's the culture that you live in. Look, we just got to watch World Cup, and that was in Qatar. So the time that we're in right now, the World Cup is getting ready to finish. It's very exciting, but there's really different cultures in Qatar. If you're from the military, Qatar. And so having respect for those boundaries. Most of the World Cup games had no alcohol sold, which was very different for some of those fans. That's usually a celebration and it's a party, and hey, the culture at large, it's, not drinking. Go figure, huh? I know. But to make space for those and be like, hey, they just grew up a little bit different than I did. Like emotional connections. I mean, some families hug, right? Some families don't. I mean, it's just in how you grow up. I just wanted to mention how boundaries can develop. All right. How do we know, just a sidebar, how do we know when we've possibly crossed a boundary? Well, and the client starts to pull away. Some clients, like for example, glutes, right? And we think, oh, well, if they're pulling away, maybe they're sore. Well, unless we tell a client that we are going to be touching their glutes, their butt, maybe we touch it on ourselves and say, are you okay getting work in this area? That could be a boundary crossing for some clients. Oh, Jodi, I know what's best for my client. Back it up, buttercup. No, we get to be respectful of the boundaries that our clients bring in. So you'll know also if there's been a boundary crossing, if your client gets completely quiet or gets really talkative. Something's what's up. Something's changing. These are all other ways that you could be getting a signal that there's been a boundary crossing. Avoids eye contact. The client or the client's significant other makes a comment to the receptionist or makes a comment to you. Maybe the client doesn't reschedule. Like if you have a feeling that there might have been a boundary crossing, explore that further to avoid it in the future. Worst case scenario is the client leaves a bad review or officially complains. Those could be from boundary crossings. It's not just that, it was a bad massage. Like, it wasn't a bad massage. Well, if we knew the client's history, do we know? Then I'm trying not to give too many examples, but let me give you an example of this. Say a client has been sexually abused in the past. Their safe areas, maybe their don't go there areas, may be a lot wider than an average client. So they may not want any glute work. They may want really secure draping. And we get to pay attention to these things. And so in the context of the MBLEx, just wanted to mention that so you're clear with boundary crossings and boundary violations. All right, let's move into some key terms, some definitions. Some key terms. We've heard these before in our own personal life and in other classes, but they bear repeating. We're going to talk about ethics, the definition of ethics. We're going to talk about values, principles, morals, and laws. All right, what is ethics? Ethics is the study of moral principles and right conduct. This can be applied to individuals, groups, or professions. Now, one thing I love about this, and I don't know if you can see it. Let's hide. See if I can hide this toolbar. I think you can see it. On the bottom of each of these slides is a little copyright from Sohnen Moe. And Cherie Sohnen Moe is someone who's a colleague, and I would call her a great friend, a friend. And she wrote a book on ethics, and this is taken from there. The reason I love this content is because Cherie Sohnen Moe also, in the past, and maybe even now, has written questions for the MBLEx. She is a question writer. They take her questions and answers and use them on the MBLEx. So that's why I love this content, because it's a little bit of a different spin than what we've done before. So ethics is the study of moral principles and right conduct. And it can be applied to individuals, groups, or professions. So why do we have a code of ethics? We're going to uphold the dignity of the profession, or we want to practice ethically. We want to respect clients, and we work within our scope of practice. These are all under the umbrella of ethics. Values can be tangible or intangible, and they're subjective. And they're usually based on the individual. We use the example of cultures. Different cultures have different values. It's based upon your belief system, which could come from your family, your country, your religion. It could come from your personal experiences. But these are tangible and intangible convictions. People don't always agree on their value system. And they may change. You may change your value system based on growing up, based on getting older. Yeah. Principles. This is an individual's code of action. So this is This is our guidepost on how we behave with integrity. Those are our principles. So, and again, they may vary person to person. These certainly are fueled by our values. It's the manifestation of our values and what we believe our principles are. And some people, look, some people just, it varies person to person, but this is the code of action from where we act. And it's how we stay in alignment with our integrity based on our principles. Morals. This is a charged word, an emotionally charged word. Morals, it's good and bad, right? The goodness or badness. And I happen to belong to a spiritual community that doesn't do good and bad. But morals really is defined by what we consider good or what we consider bad. It can be based on religion, but it could be based on culture as well. And this is where a lot of judgment comes from. We have some moral responsibilities, but in general, just morals know that this is how people judge good and bad, even though in reality, there really isn't good and bad, but it can be a feeling of good and bad. And laws is really just very straightforward. It's a codified, like codified just means written down. There are codes, and this is how we do things, and it's written down. Those are laws. So this is something that everybody agrees upon, and to change it, there has to be, well, in our case, an act of Congress, right? But there has to be a shift in society to change a law. So laws are there to protect the public. Laws are enforceable. There's penalties for not following the law. And also, just as it sets forth for massage therapy, that is, there's different scopes of practice and different requirements in different states, in different counties, in different cities, in different countries. Professionalism is a key term for a guideline to a professional practice. And this is where English gets a little tricky, because you are a professional, right? You are a massage, you are a healthcare professional. You are a licensed healthcare professional. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about professionalism. We're talking about how you show up, how you look, your attitude, your communication skills, how you show respect for your clients, how you manage your boundaries. Professionalism. It is your competencies, technical and on the table. It's your business practices. Does your business practice show you, demonstrate professionalism? All right, professionalism. That is how we want to be perceived. All right, we're in the home stretch here. Do a little shoulder roll. If I'm a little bouncy today, it's because I'm sitting on a ball. Yes, all right, let's talk about the therapeutic relationship. So there are 3 parts of the therapeutic relationship I wanted to highlight. In terms of the MBLEx guidelines to a professional practice, we need to understand there is a therapeutic relationship that is client-centered, that you have a fiduciary responsibility in that therapeutic relationship. And part of that responsibility, that relationship, that fiduciary relationship, the responsibility is to provide safe space. So client-centered, very straightforward. The client has the right to expect that you, as their massage therapist, are going to act in their best interest. This does not give us permission to do our massage on the client. If we think that something is going to be good for them, oh, it's going to be good for them. Oh, I'm going to work those glutes. It's going to be good for them. Oh, I'm going to use my elbow in their trapezius, their rhomboids. I'm going to get in there. It's going to be good for them. You're leaving someone out of the equation, the client. What does the client think is going to be good for them? Maybe they haven't had a lot of massage. Maybe they haven't had a lot of deep tissue work. Let's remember to be client-centered, asking permission, letting them know what's coming, asking how does that feel? And, please, please hear me. Do not lose your voice in the session. All too often, therapists, once the session starts, don't talk. And I'm not saying you need to be chit-chatty the whole time. But when there's a question to be asked, like, how does that feel? Are you okay? On a scale of 0 to 10, how deep does that feel? Do not lose your voice. Keep your voice. If your client goes off into la la land, awesome, beautiful. I let them go. But now and then I need to bring them back to ask them a question. Hey, I'm going to work in this area. Are you cool with that? How are you experiencing this work? Does this feel deep? If the client has asked for deep work, then let's give it to them. But if the client hasn't asked, let's also meet them where their needs. So anyhow, the point is client-centered, that the session, the part of the therapeutic relationship is that you offer a client-centered session. Now, fiduciary responsibility, you've heard this term before, most likely, in the context of money. That maybe if you've sat on a board or you've had to deal with an estate planning, and that you had a fiduciary responsibility. It sometimes has to do with money. Watch it here. Fiduciary relationship. And that simply in therapeutic terms, that means that you acknowledge that you have been given a special trust by your clients. They are putting their confidence in you. And that by doing that, by giving you that trust, by giving you their confidence, that you are going to have their best interest in mind, that you are going to act for their benefit. That is the fiduciary relationship in massage therapy. So how does that look? Well, protect and maintain boundaries, use draping. And this is, a term, again, we hear sometimes, with companies, or when someone has passed away, well, that trustee, they had a beneficiary. But think of that, expand it from money. In the money, when we talk about fiduciary responsibilities with money, we have a responsibility to do the right thing with money. So if someone has donated, and you say you're doing a fundraiser for a friend, or a fundraiser for your family, a fundraiser say the hurricane has come through and you're trying to help your neighbor's family out, and you raise $1,000. You have a bake sale, you do a GoFundMe, whatever, you raise $1,000. It's your fiduciary responsibility to give that money to the family. To do the right thing with that money. You've been given trust to handle those finances. This expands with massage therapy because of the power differential, which we'll talk about in a moment. You've been given trust. You've been given confidence by your client, and it's your fiduciary the fiduciary relationship is described that that client is trusting you to do what's in their best interest. Understanding that power differential is the difference. Power differentials happen when anyone is in a position of authority. It could be a parent, it could be a teacher, it could be a police officer. There's power differentials there. There's a power differential in the treatment room. As the therapist, you have more authority. That client is there trusting you. And we just need to acknowledge that. And the way that we keep our clients safe within that power differential, through draping, through healthy boundaries. I'm throwing a lot of terms at you here. But if you see them on the MBLEx, you're going to be like, okay, right. How does it look in the treatment room? We're talking specifically about massage therapy and the treatment room. Transference, that is when the client has unresolved emotions, and we transfer it. So the client is transferring those unresolved emotions to you as the therapist. So transference is the client with some emotional stuff going on, transferring feelings to you. Power differential. So here we go. Other examples of the power differential: a boss, clergy, and this is actually fairly common. And that's something that's coming up. And, it's fairly common because why do people get massage? Well, maybe they're in pain. Maybe they want to feel better. But sometimes they're just working on their stuff, right? So understanding the signs of that and knowing that it's common, it's not personal. Signs of transference, the client is asking you personal questions. Clients are violating policies or violating your personal boundaries. Calling you at off hours is an example of that. Clients are over complimentary. They're very complimentary. Sometimes they'll even say, I love you. Hold on. I know you have love. I know you're feeling very grateful. Careful. Careful. If the client's bringing you gifts or is trying to be social, there could be some transference going on. And we're in danger of violating boundaries. More signs of transference. And these it depends on the client, right? So I'll just let you kind of take a look at those, but understand that it's from the client to you. Countertransference is the opposite. It's when us as the practitioners, as licensed massage therapists, have some unresolved emotions, feelings, needs, issues, and then we're transferring it to the client. Signs that you are experiencing a countertransference moment. Maybe you're super irritated with a client when they're non-compliant. You're super irritated with one client if they're late. Okay. Are you super irritated with all clients when they're late? Check that out. If you have an attraction to your client, here's a lovely one. A good thing to know. Are you experiencing a countertransference moment if your client doesn't get better right away? Are you making that mean something about your treatment? So if a massage therapist is feeling guilty that their client hasn't resolved their health crisis, hasn't resolved their pain, and it's going on a prolonged period of time, just careful. There could be some countertransference going on. All right. And so look at keeping that therapeutic relationship within the navigational beacons of your scope of practice, that you're not offering them help outside of the therapeutic relationship. You're not helping them move. You're not, picking them up for their appointment. Boundaries. All right. Okay, this is an extra slide. Ooh, few extra slides. Okay, so we're gonna, oh my goodness, a whole extra. So we're going through a few slides. We're gonna get to our questions because I'm pretty sure they're in here. Let's see. Looks like this whole thing duplicated. Thank you for your patience. Did I start over? Huh. I'm gonna stop my share for just a moment. Let me go get to our questions because it's time to dissect some questions. Ooh, and if you've got to jump off, please definitely do what you need to do here. All right, we're going to come back to our questions. All right. Thanks for your patience. There we go. Here's our dissecting questions. And yeah, thank you again for your patience. We're going to try this one more time. Had to get on the right slide. Here we go. From the current slide, this one, yes. All right. That's not me this time. We'll just go down here. All right, there we go. All right. So, and also just recognize a few defense mechanisms. Sometimes your clients will project or repress feelings or deny they have them. That's just a defense mechanism. But let's move into dissecting our questions. Yes. What does dissecting questions look like? Part of how we dissect questions is how we, sometimes elementary school or middle school students will break apart a question to get to the root of the question, the real meaning. Here, I'm just showing you two examples. The sentence is, the young boys really like video games. And the core of the sentence is, boys like games. The girls are pleased with the good news. Girls are pleased. We're looking for like the root of the sentence. So we're looking for the root, the stem, the meaning of the question. Let's take a peek. So respect for yourself and your clients, communication skills, an ability to manage boundaries, technical competencies, and your business practices all represent examples of, oh, thank you, rigid. Rigid boundaries, yes. Question, let me repeat it. Respect for yourself and clients, communication skills, the ability to manage boundaries, technical competencies, and your business practice all represent examples of A, your profession, B, professionalism, C, professional attire, D, entrepreneurship. I see some answers coming in the chat. Oh, you guys are good. Good too. Yes. Yay, Charlotte. Yay, Caitlin. Way to go, Isabel. Yes, Chelsea. Boom, shakalaka. Professionalism. And I know that can be a tricky word, but good job on that. You weren't fooled. All of these are types of boundaries, except, okay, so look at this. This is a question that is flipping the script, right? All of these are types of boundaries except one of them. So we're looking for the exception. We're looking for the false answer, right? You with me? All of these are types of boundaries except A, energetic, B, intellectual, C, physical, D, power differences. All right, let's see what you got. Oh, Boom, 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 boom. You guys got it. Nice work. Let's go backwards this time. Nice work, Caitlin, Chelsea, Isabel, Charlotte. Boom, boom, boom. Yes. Power differences is a different concept. It's not a type of boundary. A, B, and C are boundaries. D is something different. The study of moral principles or right conduct. This can be applied to individuals, groups, or professions. The study of moral principles and right conduct. Is it A, principles, B, morals, C, ethics, D, values? The study of moral principles. I know. Oh, we're not so fast on answering on this one, huh? Okay. So, good rule of thumb is that the answer is not necessarily going to be in the body of the question. So, the study of moral principles, is that morals? Probably not. The study of right conduct, this can be applied to individuals, groups, or professions. All right, let's take a peek. A little tricky. All right, we got some diversity here in our answers. And the study of moral principles and right conduct is ethics. Yeah, so moral principles and right conduct is the big umbrella. That's ethics. We have a code of ethics. We have a practice of ethics. Yeah. All right. And next, the practitioner is responsible for protecting and maintaining boundaries, even if the client requests or instructs the practitioner to behave otherwise. This is an example of what concept? So the definition is the practitioner is responsible for protecting and maintaining boundaries, even if the client requests or instructs the practitioner to behave otherwise. A, personal principles. B, fiduciary relationship. C, ethical behavior. D, boundary violations. Tricky, tricky. Tricky, tricky. Let's just breathe into it. The practitioner is responsible for protecting and maintaining boundaries. The practitioner is responsible for protecting and maintaining boundaries, even if the client requests or instructs the practitioner to do otherwise. Personal principles, fiduciary relationship, ethical behavior, boundary violations. Ah, you guys, I didn't trick you into ethical behavior. All right, right, fiduciary relationship. And actually, ethical behavior is a good answer, but it's not the best answer. This is a description of ethical behavior, but fiduciary relationship is the best answer. All right, an increase in the amount of power that exists in any position of authority is called laws, ethical boundaries, vulnerability, power differential. An increase in the amount of power that exists in any position of authority. Ooh, nice work, ladies, gentlemen. Power differential, yes. So we understand that. As a licensed massage therapist, we understand the power differential and we respect it because there's an increase in the amount of power that exists because you are the therapist. All right. Yoo-hoo! Well done. Well done today, guys. This was tough stuff. Whew. This was a lot, right? Yeah. So I am going to stay on for a few more minutes to answer individual questions, but want to wrap up for those of you who are listening to the recording later by saying, hey, my name is Jodi Scholes, and I'm so glad that you took this time today to review this material, right? It's a lot of stuff, a lot of heady stuff. So maybe you want to go take a walk, or maybe you want to go do something physical now, because we've been in this mental space, right? Yes, thank you. Um, and so we want to maybe get out and move our bodies a little bit to get, out of our heads, because that was a lot. So at this point, you don't need to study anymore because there's just been so much information just poured right into your nugget. Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you, Isabel. Thank you, Caitlin. Um, and in any case, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time to study today. I'm very happy for you. I'm very proud of you. I hope you're feeling happy. I hope you're feeling proud of yourself. Because when you take this time and you learn and you set aside this time to increase your knowledge, to prepare yourself to pass the MBLEx, you're sending a really strong message to the universe. You are imagining yourself in practice. You are imagining yourself in the treatment room. And that is very powerful because we become what we think about. We become what we think about. We manifest what we think about. And so if you find that your thoughts are betraying you, then pause, come back to the breath. If it's within your capacity to do so, say, I am perfect. If that feels a little uncomfortable, you can say, it is perfect. I am perfect. It is perfect. Because it is. Your journey is perfect, and you are perfect. Really, just the way you are right now. Perfect. I know sometimes it doesn't seem like it, but you are, because there's no one just like you. And that's perfect. All right, signing off. See you again real soon. And see you again next week. Actually, we won't see you next week. We're taking a hot break for the holiday. But if you're, but tune in for us. Look for me on the Patreon account. Look for me on YouTube. Look for me at jodiskulls.com, or get in touch if you have questions. See you soon.